Hey guys, what is up? What is up? Unit 7 study guide review video. Let's do it. You guys ready for the test? You guys ready? You guys are going to ace this thing, huh? 100 out of 100. All right, so let's do it. Explain what segregation is. Legal separation. Separation of the races. Describe the 13, 14, and 15 amendments. These guys, these three amendments, are on the test a lot. I think there's like 6 questions. 6 just on these three amendments. So make sure you got these down like amazing. So 13th Amendment is going to abolish slavery. Whoa. And another term for abolish is like prohibit or outlaw slavery too. So you can put that if you desire. 14th Amendment, the biggest thing of the 14th that you need to know is that it gave citizenship to former slaves, and that's just through basically if you were born within the United States, then you can be a citizen, and slaves were born in the United States, therefore they would become citizens. The 15th Amendment is going to give voting rights. Voting rights, or I guess you can say gave Black American men, the right to vote. Right to vote. So these three are big. Please, please, please know 13, 14, and 15 well. If you want to get an A on the test, you got to know those three amendments. Explain what the Jim Crow laws did. They disenfranchised Black voters. So they're going to create these laws that are going to make it difficult for Black voters to actually vote. So the 3 examples that I used in class are the poll taxes. So in order to vote, you had to pay. The literacy tests. So in order to vote, you had to prove that you could read. And then the last one was the grandfather clause. So this was like a workaround for those that were white. So if you're white and you were, if you were poor and you couldn't read, well, at least you could prove that your grandfather voted in an election. Plessy versus Ferguson. What's the popular phrase that it's going to create? Separate but equal, which means segregation is legal as long as the facilities are equal. Number 7, what did the court case of Brown versus Board of Education do? What did it rule? Separate but equal. Let's do this. Separate but equal is inherently unequal. It is going to say that you cannot segregate schooling. So it's going to integrate schools. So no more just Black schools, no more just white schools. Those schools must be integrated. Number 8, protest strategy of MLK, civil disobedience. He is going to say that what would I do without spell check, right? He's going to say if a law is unjust, it's going to be okay to break that law as long as you are civil about it, as long as you are nonviolent about breaking that law. Number 9, Civil Rights Act of 1964 do ban segregation. Segregation is now illegal. Who signed it? Lyndon B. Johnson. Number 10, what did the Voting Rights Act of 1965 do? Got rid of those Jim Crow laws. Those Jim Crow laws that disenfranchised Black voters. So the literacy tests, the poll taxes, and the grandfather clauses, no more. So now Blacks can vote. Voting Rights Act of 1965. 11, explain what the United Farm Workers fought for. They're going to fight for, who was this against? Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. They're going to fight for migrant worker job conditions, right? They're going to make a union. What was the letter from Birmingham jail? This is written by MLK while he was in Birmingham, while he was in prison. And this is going to outline his idea of civil disobedience. Man, I'm really bad with spelling here. Oh, that was right. All right, how was the Feminine Mystique book by Betty Friedan, how was it influential? This is going to spark the women's rights movement. Women's rights movement. She's going to talk about how women are unfulfilled and that they can look to the society to get fulfillment through getting rid of these 1950 stereotypes. Number 16, list 3 ways that the disability rights movement was successful. This is taken straight out of your notes. Look there and you will find those 3 ways. Number 17, other than MLK, who played an important role on the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom? A. Philip, I think there's one L there, Randolph. I don't know if that's spelled correctly. What was the ruling of Roe v. Wade? Abortions cannot be denied within the first trimester. That's Roe v. Wade. And this is because of the right to privacy. Right to privacy. Women have the right to privacy just like all Americans do. Number 19, how was the gay liberation movement successful? Look at your notes and you will find those ways that the gay liberation movement was successful. What is now National Organization for Women? Number 21, what kind of protest tactics did the Black Panthers use and what did they not use? So they are all about Black power, Black nationalism. They're going to use defense when necessary, which is maybe necessary a lot. What did they not use? Well, they didn't use nonviolence. So they're not a nonviolent group necessarily. They're not for civil disobedience. Explain the tactics of Malcolm X. So very much like this, he's into these things as well. Again, as we learned in class, Malcolm X is a unique character where he kind of has 2 different lives in a sense. After he goes to Mecca, he's going to change his viewpoint on a lot of these. But for the sake of the test, we're talking about Malcolm X 1.0, if you will. Which organization did MLK lead? The SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. What did the Freedom Riders, what did they fight for? To end segregation. Sit-in movements, what were they fighting for? Same thing, to end segregation. And they are going to consist mainly of students. What is the Equal Rights Amendment? Equal Rights Amendment, otherwise known as the ERA, was for women. That women would gain equal rights in the workplace, and they would no longer be discriminated, that they would get equal pay. Now, please keep this in mind. This is so important for the test. The Equal Rights Amendment was never passed. It was proposed for 50 years, but it was never actually passed. How did AIM, the American Indian Movement, bring attention to their movement? They are going to have occupy movements or seize particular places or lands. They're going to occupy Alcatraz, and Wounded Knee, South Dakota. Wounded Knee. Come on, Wounded. All right. Explain the boycott that Cesar Chavez and Dolores supported. They are going to support the boycott on lettuce and grapes. Title IX is going to end gender discrimination in educational settings. So sports now, you'll see that there are girls can play sports. They're not banned from sports just because they are ladies. Number 30, what were the 2 goals in the beginning of the civil rights movement? Goal number 1, end segregation. Goal number 2, gain voting rights. 31, who was president during the Civil War? Mr. Abe Lincoln, baby. That's right. Honest Abe. Number 32, what event ended Reconstruction? The Compromise of 1877. Remember Samuel Tilden and Rutherford B. Hayes, otherwise known as Rutherford B. Hayes. They're going to do a little backroom deal. And then the military, because of the backroom deal, is going to be lifted out of the South. They're no longer going to be in the South, and now the South can do whatever the heck they want to do. Number 33. What was the agency that was given the task of feeding and clothing former slaves? That is the Freedmen's Bureau. Freedmen's, man, that's really not right. I don't know if that's spelled correct. That must be right. Freedmen's Bureau. Now I got to spell bureau. Oh my goodness. B-U-R. Is that right? That's close enough. There we go. Number 34. Abolitionists created an elaborate system to free slaves called the Underground Railroad. I've been working on the railroad. Number 35. What is the Emancipation Proclamation? Abraham Lincoln is going to write the Emancipation Proclamation, and this is going to free slaves in states of rebellion. That is so key. So, not just southern states. So many. Ay. This is like the plight of a teacher right here. So many students think that the Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves in the South. Not yes and no. They freed slaves. The Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves in states of rebellion. So if the state did not leave the Union, if the state was still in the Union, that means that their slaves were not free. All right, so here's a number of buzzwords that you got to know. So make sure you know these. There's going to be a matching section in these regards. And then the writing question. Make sure you know the timeline. Know the timeline of the women's rights movement. Because there's going to be a question that is going to ask you the order of events, and then you'll have to figure out what the order of events are based on the document that I provide you. So know the timeline, know what happened when, know that voting was obtained for women before this idea of sexual reproductive rights. So know the order of the women's rights movement. All right, guys. So that is it. Feel free to email me if you have any questions. We got this. We got this test. You guys are going to ace it. You guys are going to do amazing. I will see you next class.